Hey, hey, hey. How's it going, guys? I am attorney Michael Eline, and as you know, I am an attorney licensed to practice law in California and Texas. Yeehaw! But my law practice is primarily catastrophic injury cases, car accidents, and motorcycle accidents. I have one of the largest motorcycle accident settlements in the history of the United States, $10.7 million. But my love is government accountability advocacy and government accountability operations. And that's the reason I became a lawyer is because I was attacked over a parking ticket by a total low-life cop in West Covina back in I think it was 96 when I was managing a Bally's Total Fitness. And I remembered how I was lied to by the police and how they lied to, for example, I told one of these guys, the sergeant that showed up, hey man, I'm an inactive U.S. Marine. F you, your boy over here went ahead and attacked me because I asked him for a copy of his photo ID and he wouldn't give it to me. All I wanted was a Pepsi and he wouldn't give it to me. Right. So, I don't have an undergrad or anything like that. I was honorably discharged from the U.S. Marines, suffered an injury which made it impossible for me to stay in, and I was honorably discharged, and I wanted to be in there for life, but it didn't work out. So ultimately I became a lawyer on the law office study program and studied under different lawyers for 4 years, and then became a lawyer with no law degree. And so that's sort of my claim to fame, is I'm one of the very few people modernly who became a lawyer with no law degree. And I kind of fell from grace in a way because I got into personal injury law. And the reason I got into law originally was to do civil rights. I sued that cop and got $29,999 and got the illegal and unlawful 148 PC 148 charge dropped. But what I learned out of all that is that now that I've come back full circle and here I am with you, is that police lie and they're actually allowed to lie. And if you lie to the FBI, that's a you can go to prison for that. That's for reals, guys. So the government has the table stacked against you. So I am a natural law advocate. And so what I'm going to do is show you some videos tonight about police lying and doing bad stuff. Hey, what's the matter? You? Good seeing you, brother. Nice seeing you, man. And so Fenyear wasn't in the armed services, but I was severely injured and ended up getting right on, man. Well, I'm sorry you got injured, but I'm glad you're here. I guess that's what I'm saying. So I've had a pretty rough day. This is one of those days where I've been up since 04. I was teetering on going live, but I have an anniversary / birthday celebration tomorrow with my wife. So I don't think I'm going live tomorrow. We're probably going to go see Gladiator. My favorite movie was Russell Crowe Gladiator. Give me a bunch of ones for Russell Crowe Gladiator. What a freaking awesome movie. Are you not entertained? What a great movie, man. And so anyways, what got me doing these videos, it's kind of weird. A buddy of mine, Chili DeCastro, got locked up. And so his YouTube channel didn't have anybody looking after it. And I think he knew that he could trust me not to screw him. So I helped him with his channel along with Brian over at Here's the Deal while he was locked up. And ultimately he got his case reversed on appeal, thanks to you guys with your donations, so he could afford a good lawyer. And so as a result of that, I sort of spun off, and a lot of you guys reached out to me and said, hey, keep your channel going, Mike. And I said, okay, I'll keep it going. I didn't really think it was going to go anywhere. I'm not getting rich or making any money off this. Every once in a while I'll get lucky and you guys will give me a super chat or buy a copy of my book, which is the digital version of this book called My Journey to Becoming a Practicing Lawyer with No Law Degree or Undergrad. And, I take you through my journey of how I did it and how you could do it in other states besides California, and just sort of talk about my journey, how I did it. And it is an inspirational story. Even if you don't want to become a lawyer or whatever, I'm all about motivating people and trying to help people achieve things, because what the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve. So that's kind of what another one of my claims to fame is. I've had a rough day, guys. I've been up since dark 30. So, and by the way, I apologize for getting my show on so late. It wasn't my intention to start the show. Oops, hold on 1 second. But you know, brother got to make some money. Brother got to make some grip. You know what I'm saying? So I had to make some grip, and that's just the way it is. And so that's what happened, and that's where I'm at right now. So, anyways, let me get my show kicked off. It looks like I've got a couple people in here already. I got Rami. What's up, brother? Good seeing you. By the way, guys, I don't know if Rami is looking for work or whatever, but I also am a firm believer in creating parallel systems and doing business with people that you like and trust. And so Rami is, in my estimation, one of the best videographers and video editors there are out there. So if you are somebody who needs help, and Rami, if you're for hire, I don't even know if you are, so I'm taking some privileges here. I recommend you reach out to my homeboy, Rami. Super good guy, a lot of experience. And I consider him to be a close friend. And, you know, I'll give him the shirt off my back. And I know he would do the same for me or you if you're part of Team MPE. But so let me just really quick thank everybody. Steve Conkler, thank you, bro, for showing up. Where's all my girls, man? I miss Jody Shiloh. I hope she shows up tonight. Where are you, Jody? I mean, when I don't see her, I get scared. And then Fenrir, that's kind of a cool name. And yeah, Fenrir. Yeah, man, getting injured, especially when it was your goal to be especially to be a Marine, right? Because I wanted to be the best, like my dad was the best. And then getting boarded out, it's a real disappointment. And then having people who never served, try to like denigrate your service, tell you that, oh, you didn't serve, so you weren't really a Marine. Like that really kind of gets your goat. But you got to understand they're just low life scumbag civilians who are probably jealous because they were, too much of a pussy to even make the effort. So sometimes I have to remind myself of that. But anyways, I think I've thanked everyone. And hey, Rami, man, it's super good seeing you, bro. I love having my but like Rami's the kind of guy, like he'll take my call at like 2 a.m, and there's very few people out there like that. So if you guys need help with any kind of videography or whatever, or video editing, please reach out to Rami. And he's worth paying top dollar. The stuff that he does is off the charts. And he's the kind of guy where you can turn over a project to him and he'll just make it happen, right? It's not like you need to micromanage. The guy knows exactly what to do. Just tell him, hey, it's like putting a quarter in the gumball machine, right? You're going to get what you want. So let me just real quick here, kick off my show. And again, I doubt it's going to be a huge show tonight, guys, because I started at 6. Typically when I start at 6, I get about half what I normally would get, but I've been buried all day working on trying to settle a very big case where there's a lot of exposure to my client. It's a case that I'm defending. I normally do plaintiff's work, but lately I've been doing defense work as well to make ends meet. So it's kind of cool though, because you get the opportunity to see what it's like on the other side. But really quick, let me just go ahead and kick off the show, and then we'll get into it. To another edition of Ask Michael Eline. This is where I teach people the law in an unorthodox manner by using examples that we see in the news, case law briefs, but it's all about exposing the Leviathan and its instrumentalities and taking back your rights. Know the law and mean to keep it well. Come here to learn from an expert to know your right. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. All right, that's right. You never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. So the rules of the evening, since I'm in vertical mode, double tap that screen. Make sure to double tap the like and subscribe button. Make sure to double tap that screen and always press the save button. Always save my videos for later. That's the main way we can show the Google gods, the YouTube gods that you like my channel. That gives me a nice algorithmic boost, saving my videos for later. But if you could do anything at all to help me, that's what I would like. By the way, one of my viewers, I promised you I would call you today about t-shirts. I have a guy on the hook who's going to help me make like Team MPE t-shirts. And my goal is to have like a Thomas Jefferson t-shirt, right? Andrew Jackson t-shirt with Team MPE. And so I'm trying to get that for you guys because that'll help support the channel. And ultimately, my goal would be because I've got over 20 years in now, would be to become like an influencer and be on YouTube and help people with their problems. And I'm licensed to practice law in Texas and California, but to help people with their problems when it comes to understanding natural law and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, because that's my true love. So tonight we're going to get into some really good stuff. We're going to talk about trusting no one with power, and I'm going to play a video from the 10th Amendment Center that gets into that with you. And we're going to also get into why is it okay for police to lie? Like, why is that? Like, what the heck is going on? Why are they allowed to lie? And when are they not allowed to lie? But why are they allowed to lie? And then why is it that you can't lie to the FBI when we know that they're just the instrumentalities of the administrative state, right? The blue-haired mafia, rainbow flag mafia. Why is it okay that why can't you lie to them, but they can lie to you? Why is that fair when they're supposed to be public servants? So we'll cover some of that stuff tonight. And, we'll get into it. And then Fenrir says, I wanted to serve. I just couldn't. I respect everyone who had the balls to sign up. Hey, man, you're right. Anyone who attempts to steal valor is a real a-hole. I agree with you. And, so stolen valor is someone who's never served, right? Or says that they did, or someone who did serve and puts all these ribbons on their chest, or says that they did stuff that they didn't do to try to like make themselves look better. But in my estimation, especially if you served in the Marine Corps, even if you were in for a day, if you made it through boot, you've done the hardest training there is that the United States military has to offer, at least basic training. So nobody can take that from you. What I really hate is people who like I remember when I was growing up, like I had neighbors say, oh, I was recon, and like would BS us about that. And my dad knew they weren't recon because he knew instantly, because my dad was an 0848 and all of his forward observers got killed. So he had to go out and do secondary missions as a forward observer. He was the smart guy, the cannon cocker who did all the formulas. My dad was really good at math. And so he knew right away if they were lying by asking him like 2 or 3 questions. He was a really legit Marine. And so my father, being a Lutheran and an evangelical Christian, would go out with forced reconnaissance Marines and sometimes with U.S. Navy SEALs into Cambodia, beyond the DMZ, into Montagnard villages. And my grandmother would send him little Bibles, and he would go out and hand Bibles to all the Montagnard villagers. And we actually sponsored several Montagnard families when I was a little boy. It was pretty cool, It's a pretty legit dude. So anyways, let's get started with my first video before I start freaking out. Every time I think about him, I have a heart attack. He died from Agent Orange poisoning, from being exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam. And he got cancer from that, and he just passed away recently. Let me get my video going here.
Murdered your dad.
No, I did
Yes, you
not.
did. Yeah,
Yes.
Daddy's dead because of you.
Hours of interrogation. Police lying to a suspect in the Inland Empire until he falsely confesses to murder. And now the city of Fontana is paying a massive settlement tonight after police questioned a man for 17 hours until he confessed to killing his father, who's still alive. KCAL News reporter Tom Waite joins us now with what led up to this false and really hard to watch confession.
It was, Pat, and I watched many hours of this intense interrogation, and it's very eye-opening, and we'll get to it in just a second here. But the video of the interrogation is fascinating and disturbing. An innocent man spends hours being grilled by police. When it's over, he's in the throes of a full mental breakdown, and under pressure, he lies to detectives about killing his own father.
We don't think you're a monster, Thomas.
Fontana police detectives grilling Thomas Perez Jr. after Perez Jr. reported his father missing. This interrogation descends into what's being described as psychological torture after the detectives extract a false murder confession from Perez.
We just told you we found your dead dad, and you don't give a
That detective is lying. Perez Sr. was not dead. But in this moment, Fontana detectives don't know where he is. Perez Jr. reported him missing after they had an argument. A search warrant was served at the family home. Perez Sr.'s wallet, cell phone, and even some bloodstains were discovered. A canine also alerted to the odor of possible human remains. Detectives unleash an unrelenting interrogation of Perez Jr.
Murdered your dad.
No, I did
Yes, you
not.
did. Yeah,
Yes.
Daddy's dead because of you.
No.
Yes, not only that, but poor Morgan here.
Margot.
Margo.
Margot had to witness it.
Yeah. I walked through the blood.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
The psychological effects of hours of grilling take their toll. Detectives keep pushing. Perez spirals further. Eventually, Perez Jr. makes a false confession to killing his father. All this and
so I got to tell you guys something. I've been locked up a couple of times, and being in the can, even for an hour, I mean, a lot of people, even somebody like me with my background and training, we're in the back of our heads thinking, man, what do I have to do? What do I have to say to make this stop, to get my freedom? They're really in a really strong bargaining position. And you're just in a position psychologically where I'll say anything I have to. And so, again, as you watch this, you can see there was a positive outcome, right? But again, police do have the right to lie to you without suffering any consequences. Think about this. Now, on the civil side, you could win your civil case, but to coerce a confession, and I'm going to get into the law, Frazier versus Cupp, a 1969 case, Oregon versus Mathiasen. We're going to talk about this, but let's just keep watching and you guys will understand what I'm talking about.
71-year-old Perez Sr. was alive. He went to his girlfriend's home, but didn't have his cell phone. Perez Jr.'s attorney.
The worst act of deliberate cruelty that I've seen suing the police for 40 years. I've been suing the police for 40 years, and I've never seen the cops be that cruel to someone.
Steering on behalf of Perez Jr. sued Fontana and won a nearly $900,000 settlement. This all unfolded back in 2018, but the case was just finalized.
I never thought that it was easy, maybe even possible, to get a completely innocent person confess to something like that. But after I watched the video and watched the interrogation of Tom Perez, what I divined is that they could get you and I to confess to killing Abe Lincoln if they wanted to. It's unbelievable. And they're not amateurs, and they know what they're doing, and they know how to do it.
Steering says even after detectives learned Perez Sr. was alive, they did not tell Perez Jr. Instead, they had him held for mental distress.
Once they learn this, instead of telling him that because of what they did to him, they 5150 him. They place him on a civil protective custody hold, have him taken to the mental hospital, and then they tell the hospital that he's in custody and that he can't have anybody contacting him.
We reached out to Fontana Police and the city of Fontana before the end of business today for comment, but we did not hear back. So, Pat, you saw it there. Very intense stuff.
Intense and very bizarre, actually, Tom. And the big question I'm sure everybody wants to know, why did the police do it?
Yeah, and, you know, the fact that we reached out to them and they didn't respond, but the attorney, you know, telling us that they didn't actually, he didn't think that, didn't know if the guy was dead or not, if Thomas Sr. or Perez Sr. was dead. But what they were trying to do is figure out what happened. And because of the evidence that was in those court documents, perhaps that's why they decided to go down that road, because there was some blood evidence found, or blood found. I don't know if it was evidence. It was blood that was found in the house, and then the dog that triggered on the odor of the possible human remains. So with all that together, the police officers or detectives then, you know, believe that this was the road they wanted to go down. But, you know, just to see him in such duress is very difficult to watch.
It is, and the fact that they want a settlement.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So,
nearly $900,000. So
all
there
right.
you go.
Okay, thanks for that, Tom.
Thank you.
I mean, could you guys imagine? I mean, seriously, like, so somebody like tries to hurt your father or whatever, and then for whatever reason, there's DNA evidence. Well, obviously, because, you know, you probably visit your dad all the time, whatever it might be, to then be dragged into a torture chamber with 2 highly trained cops, right? For 17 hours, basically busting your balls until you confess that you killed your dad, even though he's alive. Yeah, I think 900,000 is not even close to what that's worth. I mean, could you imagine? I mean, just think about it, especially if you had a close relationship with your dad. Anyway, so there's legal precedents or precedents, whatever you want to call it. We would always argue about this, right? Me and other lawyers. It's so stupid, right? I mean, people just pronounce English words differently. Go to Germany, it's even worse. You have the Hochdeutsch, you have the Süddeutsch, you have all this different type of German. It's crazy. But anyways, Frazier versus Cupp. It's a 1969 case. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled that police deception does not automatically violate the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. The court has generally held that trickery or deceit does not necessarily render a confession involuntary unless it leads to a coercive atmosphere. And that's what happened here. Those dudes were obviously highly coercive. So again, that's sort of the distinction, guys. Hey, right on, Roger. By the way, Roger Lane is always hooking me up. I don't know why, but I appreciate it, brother. Roger Lane just threw me a $5 super chat, and I got the anchor, even though it's Navy, but I appreciate that because hold on, let me give you a little prop. Thank you, Navy, for getting me to the battlefield. All right. So, and then Oregon versus Mathiasen, that is a 1977 Supreme Court case where the Supreme Court upheld a confession, even though the detective falsely claimed they had found fingerprints at a crime scene linking the suspect to a crime. So that's kind of what they were doing here. The problem with this particular interrogation that we saw tonight was that it was coercive. It was just, 17 hours. Come on. I mean, can you imagine being interrogated for 17 hours? I mean, Jiminy Christmas. That's crazy. So, and Roger explodes into the chat. That's right. Thanks. What's the matter, you? And by the way, thank you, Jody Shiloh. And do me a favor, guys. Hit that like and subscribe button. Tap that like and subscribe button. Show some support for my channel. It's very, very hard for me to come on and do these shows. Notice that I came on late tonight, which I'm bummed out because when I come on late, I get way less viewers. But, I can at least make some shorts, right, for you guys to watch tomorrow in the afternoon who weren't able to make it tonight. Now, there's also psychological strategy, interrogation techniques, like lying can be part of what's known as the Reed technique. So take a look for yourself. Don't just take my word for it, guys. Lying can be part of what's known as the Reed technique. It's a widely used interrogation method in the U.S. where officers, could use deception to create a sense of urgency, or inevitability about confessing. Like, you might as well do it now because, we're going to find out later anyways, right? Don't do it, guys. Don't ever talk to cops, right? Ever. Don't even have a conversation with them about the weather, because anytime you talk to a cop, all you're doing is participating in an investigation against yourself. They'll look at furtive and non-furtive conduct, right? They'll look at your demeanor, your personality, the dilation of your pupils, whether you look left or right, because that could be a sign that you're being untruthful. I mean, they're just trained basically to look for the worst in human beings, unfortunately. So, and I have arguments about this with my wife. She's more pro law enforcement. After what happened to me, I'm not. And, she's my legal secretary, so I got to listen to her. And, and most of you guys also know on my channel that I don't discriminate. If you believe in natural law, if you believe that your rights come from God and you don't believe that the state has the right to take them away, welcome to Team MPE. That's where I'm at, because all that other stuff we can work out in the laundry. But now, so they could lie about evidence, offering false promises of leniency. Hey, if you just tell me now, I'll go easy on you. That's a lie. Cops don't have the authority to go easy on you, guys. Only the prosecutor, and typically only with an agreement by the judge. And that's the problem. One of my commenters just made a statement that they should be teaching this stuff in schools. But why would the administrative public school system want to teach you about your rights? They don't even want to teach you about the fact that our country was born in a violent, bloody revolution based upon the king trying to take away our firearms. Most commie public school teachers want to ban firearms, and they want to brainwash your kids into thinking that firearms are inherently evil. But the only reason why they even have their cushy jobs and government pensions, even though we have one of the lowest education standards in the country since the creation of the Department of Education, is because we had a constitution and a Bill of Rights. But they're the first ones to crap all over it. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree. Now, the other one would be disrupting the suspect's expectations. Lying can catch the suspect off guard, potentially leading them to provide information or confess when they might not otherwise confess. And there's a tactical advantage, gathering information where deception can be used to elicit information that might be useful in solving a crime, right? If a suspect believes that the police have more evidence than they actually do, they might actually provide details that could lead to further investigation or corroboration of facts that the police kind of think that they already know. So that's another way that it might work out. Now, there are also legal and ethical boundaries. While the police can lie about many things, there are limits, right? And that's what we saw here in this first video tonight. There are limits. And yeah, Amber Heard, right on. What's the matter, you? Yeah, a bunch of ones. For instance, they cannot make direct threats or promises that would make the confession involuntary. Like they can't say, I'm going to shoot you in the face unless you tell me. They can't do that, all right? So give me a bunch of ones if you think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. But the courts will look at what they call the totality of the circumstances. But here's the problem that I have with this, guys, is that most judges, based on my experience, are former prosecutors, right? There's not a whole lot of from the criminal side, most judges were prosecutors. So I have a problem with that. They're already tainted. And then, of course, in California, most judges are far left activists, at least the ones that I've met. They're hardcore leftist activists because it's a single party state. So you would think that that's a good thing, but no, it's not. Anytime you have an activist judge, whether it's left or right, activism means that they can be corrupted, right? Think about that. We don't want activist judges. We want people who are willing to look at it from a neutral point of view. I've seen hardcore leftist judges like what we saw, I think it was Pennsylvania, the hardcore Democrat leftists who are selling children to child protective services in the prison industrial complex where they were ultimately convicted. The problem is once you become bound by your political party, it's like, okay, well, I'll do whatever they say, just pay me kind of a thing. So that's why I love it that I have such an amazing, diverse audience at Team MPE, where we try to look beyond partisan politics and we look at the greater good, which is natural law. Where do your rights come from? And if your rights come from a creator, that means the government can't take them away. And then, of course, case law. Judges assess whether any police deception was so egregious as to overbear the will of the suspect. And in this first video that we saw tonight, that's what we saw. Clearly those cops, 17-hour, detention and interrogation. Wow. So if the deception leads to an involuntary confession, it might be suppressed, but it might not be too. So you got to think about that. So that's why you never, ever, ever, ever talk to police or give a statement without a lawyer. Even with a lawyer, why would you give a statement? What's the purpose? So because you feel guilty, because you feel like you're going to do good. I mean, remember, their job is to take your money, put you in torture cuffs, put you in a dungeon, and take your money. That's what they do. That's their job. And even if they don't take your money, they get money by putting you in prison and locking you up. Those prison guards, the prison industrial complex, just like the other day, we saw that Biden is now illegally launching or giving permission to launch long-range weapons inside of Russia after Russia has already told us they're going to unleash nuclear war on us. I mean, can you believe this crap? And we know that politicians have their underground bunkers, thousands of miles of tunnels, water and air filtration systems. Do you think these people really care about you? Think about that. I don't want to get too far off topic, but it's something that I would like it if you guys would think about that. Like, why the hell do we have this money laundering scheme where we're sending billions of dollars, getting kickbacks, and our military industrial complex is making billions of dollars off of this? It's crazy, right? And we already know that the same people that are behind this support the World Economic Forum, and they support depopulating the planet. So what a great way to depopulate the planet. Just go to your underground tunnel, take out everybody, right? And, in 150 years or whatever, come up and you're good to go. It's crazy to me. It just blows my mind. So public policy and training, law enforcement agencies train police officers in these techniques under the rationale that it can help solve crimes more efficiently, right? That's their justification. We can lie to people because it's going to make things more efficient. I mean, I remember like the Germans, right? If we put them on the cattle cars, yeah, it will be more efficient to get them into the camps and give them the Zyklon B treatments. Yeah, they're good, yeah. So, efficiency, whenever I hear efficiency and crime and how it's going to make it more efficient, I always think back about the Nazis and how, they went after the Jews, and what a terrible thing. The same thing they're doing on our college campuses now in California, right? Going after Jews. Unbelievable how history keeps repeating itself. Unfreaking believable. So anyways, this practice is obviously controversial. Critics argue, like me, that it undermines trust in law enforcement. And that's the big thing. I grew up on 1 Atom 12, Chips. Didn't you guys? I'm sure there's a few old codgers in here. Remember Chips? Dun, 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 dun. Like, I wanted to be Poncherello, right? So I take exception to people who think that white people are racist, because I thought Ponch was cool as hell, and I wanted to be Ponch. Mexican dude, dark skin, tailored shirts. I thought that John was a total wimp, but I found out later that John actually served in one of the same units that my dad served in Vietnam. Isn't that unbelievable that John was an actual U.S. Marine? But I wanted to be like Ponch because I thought he was cool, because of the tailored shirts. I thought he was the coolest. But, oh, heck yeah, what's the matter? You Miami Vice too, yeah. Yeah, and actually I like Don Johnson better than the other dude. Man, I forgot his name already. But man, Miami Vice was actually pretty freaking cool. But yeah, as I got older and saw like police interrogation techniques and what they can get away with, no, man. They glorify police. The administrative state and Hollywood glorify police because that's their Praetorian Guard to make sure that they can stay in power. They want stupid people who are not educated about our rights, who will just cave in, because the administrative state, the prison industrial complex, gives tons of money through like the SEIU and all their unions to a certain political party. And it's all about enriching that power and keeping them in power. So advocates for reform push for transparency in interrogations. That would be me. That's why I'm here tonight. And we believe that interrogations should be recorded, obviously, and they should be limited in scope for unethical behavior. Now, with the federal government, the FBI, I mean, they got nothing on local cops. They can lie to you, and if you lie to them, you're going to prison. It's like a 2-year minimum, right? Crazy, crazy stuff. And I agree with Fenrir that we need to get rid of legislation. Yeah, well, we'll talk about that another time. We're on the same page, bro. Now, we're going to get into a couple more videos because I don't want to bore you too much with my talk, but let's get into this next one really quick. And then I'm going to get into, so stick around, same bad time, same bad channel. I love it that I have older people because you remember Batman and Robin, right? Man, I can't believe it. These young kids don't even know about same bad time, same bad channel. It's like, wow, really, dude? Man, I do feel old. Thank God I go to the gym, so at least I look somewhat younger than I am. So I don't look an age a day under 80, right, guys? So I'm good. So anyways, the next thing I'm going to talk about is it a crime to lie to police? But I'm going to put it under the guise of California police, because that's, my first law license was California. Now I'm licensed in Texas, but I don't have time to go over Texas tonight. But after we do a couple more shows, a couple more videos, I'll talk about, is it a crime to lie to the California police? Because we know it's a crime to lie to the FBI. And all they have to do is say that you lied to them. We saw that with President Trump, right? Like they were trying, like they can do that. Like they could say Carter Page or these guys, well, some partisan activist FBI agent like Peter Strzok or Lisa Page, we have an insurance policy, right? get false warrants, bring false charges, make up a bullshit story about you're a Russian agent. That right? We saw that happen, right? We saw that. We know that happens. It was all a lie. It's proven to be totally false. They can just make shit up and say that you lied and you're going to jail. Like, they don't even have to have it on tape. So be very careful anytime you talk to the FBI, an agency that probably should be abolished, right? Because we know it was born in deception, right? And we can talk about that at another time, but definitely needs to be reformed. It's all Obama holdovers that are left in there, and they're just basically partisan political activists trying to jail and prosecute anyone who disagrees with their politics. Clearly not somebody that we need in power. So let's get into the next video now, and you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about the unfair psychology behind police interrogations. Let's go.
Why does anyone confess to the police? While a plea bargain in court might lower your punishment, confessing to police can only hurt you. Yet people do it all the time.
What did you do? I killed Richard Harrison and killed Harrison.
Guilty or wrongfully accused, an officer's first step in an interrogation is to pretend they're your ally. So before mentioning anything about the case, police will try to build rapport by bringing you something to drink or bonding over commonalities. The goal is to make you feel relaxed and unthreatened. Watch this next clip. You would never guess from his behavior that the detective already has hard evidence that the guy in front of him is a murderer.
Hey, this is nothing new for me. This is how I used to get chicks, man.
I'm a big coffee guy. I don't know if you're a coffee guy or not, but I didn't want to drink in front of you. So
No, I appreciate that.
all right, go ahead. Russell, just to avoid any confusion, because people do get confused when they're talked to by the police, is that you're obviously not under arrest here today. Okay. Yep. Anytime you feel you want to leave here, you feel free to do so. The door's not locked. Teresa will walk you down the lobby anytime you want. Okay.
Once they've built rapport with you, the next step is what police call a positive confrontation. They tell you they already know you're guilty and they just want to know why you did it. This is where things get interesting. Whether it's true or not, interrogators will tell you they have so much evidence that your guilt isn't in doubt. This can involve legally lying to you about fake witnesses, fingerprints, DNA, or video footage.
It's true.
In this next clip, an officer tries to get a confession from an innocent man. Notice the confusion and doubt that starts to creep in when he's faced with false evidence.
There's a number of witnesses. Great. One of whom had a video camera.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So view the video camera.
I have.
Okay.
That's why you
Let's see it.
Isn't an issue here.
That doesn't even make sense to me.
Okay, so this is an example of why you don't want to send your kids to public school. You want to teach your kids classical education, and you want to have parents intelligent enough to say, don't ever talk to a police officer unless you have a lawyer present. Otherwise, you don't say anything. You understand? Even if you're not suspected of a crime, just saying hi might be enough for them to say, hey, I don't like the way you said hi. You look guilty to me. That's all it takes, guys. Let's keep going.
Because if I'm on the video camera.
While faking evidence is extremely effective at getting guilty people to confess, it can unfortunately result in innocent people confessing as well. One of the more heartbreaking examples of this is Marty Tankleff.
Oh, the BS card.
At 17 years old, Marty woke up and found his mother stabbed to death and his father bleeding and unconscious. Marty called 911. After bringing him in as a suspect and interrogating him for hours without success, an officer lied to Marty that his father had woken up and identified him as the attacker. Marty knew he was innocent, but didn't realize that police can lie during an interrogation. So suddenly he started to doubt himself, thinking maybe he did it while in a blackout. Marty then gave a false confession that he immediately took back, saying he was coerced while in a state of shock. But that confession led to his conviction, and he spent 17 years in prison before being deemed innocent and set free. Part of the reason these positive confrontations are so effective is because the police are trained to speak with
So, and I know this works because, you know, when I first started out, I did appellate law, and I worked with lawyers who were involved in what's called the California Appellate Project. And one of my jobs was to go and visit prisoners who were locked up for murder one, death row. It was the most devastating experience you could ever have, to know that these people were falsely convicted and based upon BS like this. Just keep watching. You guys will start to understand.
Complete certainty when presenting the evidence to you. In this next clip, police are looking for a missing woman. They're interrogating a coworker who claimed he hadn't seen her the day she disappeared. Listen to how the officer's tone conveys no doubt about whether or not the missing woman was caught on camera in this guy's car.
Okay, well, tell us when you left with her in the car, because that is what is shown. We can't make up that. We can't falsify a video camera leak. I'm not lying to you because you know I'm telling the truth because you know that's what's on the video.
Now, in this case, the video camera was real, but they had no way of proving the missing girl got into his car, just a car that looked like it might be his. Yet, because the detective says it with such conviction, he confesses that he's been lying to police and admits he was the last person seen with the missing woman. Ultimately, this led to him confessing to police that he murdered her. Because this confrontation with evidence is often the first time you'll realize you're a serious suspect, it's very common for people to push back and deny their guilt. This is where the next psychological trick comes into play. Police interrogators shut down denials immediately before you can even state them.
That's right.
This pattern interrupt makes sure you don't build up confidence in your ability to stand up for yourself. Here's a quick example.
I did not have a firearm in my hand.
We can prove that. We're beyond that point, buddy. We're beyond that, man.
The goal is to create the feeling that there's nothing you can do to convince them you're completely innocent. Here's another example. Notice the cutoff comes as soon as the man tries to deny hurting his missing family.
I don't know how much I could tell you right now. Like, I did not.
It's not even an option right now because you did not pass the polygraph, so I know you were being deceptive. So that's not even an issue right now.
I know you're being deceptive.
What happened to Shan, Bella, and Celeste?
Now that you're feeling trapped, beaten,
I hate to be that lady's husband,
down and hopeless, the next step is to give you a way out of this mess with minimization. The goal here is to get you to confess by minimizing the perceived evil of the crime. One way to do this is to say that you did what anyone would have done in your situation. Watch Officer George Birch explain how this alone can get a confession.
I had a sexual assault case. I had to talk to the guy how hot the woman was, and I understand where he was coming from. And when I said that, we were buds. And he started talking to me. And he's still sitting in prison.
Another trick is to let you think there's a chance you can shape the story that gets out. Believe it or not, the questions you're about to see are what finally convinced this man to confess to murder.
When stuff gets out that you guys left and all that together and all that kind of stuff, you want people to remember you as a guy who said, okay, look, I'm going to do the right thing. Or do you want your family and everybody else?
Oh my God, this is ridiculous.
Some evil, heartless person who won't tell us where she is. Please tell me where to go find her.
For your older guys, this is ridiculous.
That's how people remember you.
During this minimization process, police will often use what they call alternative questions. Basically, they'll present you with a story where you're guilty of the crime, but in a way that's more sympathetic or justifiable. Returning to the case of Chris Watts, his wife and 2 daughters are missing, and he's already failed a lie detector. Watch how the interrogator first tries to minimize the crime as a mistake, and then poses an alternative question to make Chris feel like he can confess without being the bad guy.
We have no doubt you love these girls with all of your heart.
That's why he killed them.
But we make mistakes.
I did not do anything.
All 3 of them?
I
Like,
did not do anything to these kids. Not do anything.
what did Shanann do though? Tell us, Chris.
Why is he even talking to these cops?
Chicks are crazy.
Can I talk to my dad or something?
Chris desperately wants to get out of this interrogation, and he latches on to the idea that he can lie and say his wife was hurting his kids.
Hair blue. She chose to go from that. I freaked out in the shanty.
Just like that, the police have him confessing on tape for murder. You may think this is actually smart of Chris because at least he's only getting convicted for 1 murder instead of 3, but in reality, his minimized confession hasn't done his case any favors because the police don't actually buy it.
I did not hurt these girls.
Are you okay with the public knowing that Shanann?
Yeah, it's good. I did not hurt these girls. Chris, I'm not sure what to do.
Minimizing a crime during an interrogation is very effective at getting the guilty to confess in hopes of a less harsh penalty. Unfortunately, it can also be effective on the innocent. Here's an
Fenrir, I
example
thought you were
that isn't
describing
as
me.
clear-cut as Chris Watts. This man says he's innocent. The police say he's guilty. He's being accused of shooting a police officer. After 7 hours of telling the police he didn't do it and being told he's
That's
lying,
me.
you can imagine
Are
how
you
this
me,
alternative
Fed
story
Reader?
suddenly becomes appealing.
It could have been a fucking accident. It could have been an accidental discharge. Okay, but when you're completely denying that, then I gotta think another way, bro.
Now we need to know if you tried to kill that deputy or did you just discharge a firearm? And that's the misdemeanor.
Imagine that's you. The police have thrown a mountain of real or fake evidence against you, told you they're absolutely certain you're guilty, and shut you down instantly whenever you try to deny it.
That's right.
You feel like
Like your
everything is
wife.
stacked against you and fear you'll get wrongfully convicted for shooting a police
your
officer.
girlfriend, right?
Then the interrogating officer tells you that confessing is your way out of this mess with as little penalty as possible. It's suddenly easy to understand why police are phenomenal at getting criminals to confess. Unfortunately,
Exactly.
it's also easy to see why some innocent people falsely confess. If you want to learn more about false confessions
In what
and the
world
dangers
does
of
the
talking
Fifth
to police,
Amendment not
even if you're
exist?
innocent,
Exactly.
I highly recommend you check out Professor James Duane's audiobook, You Have the Right to Remain Innocent, which you can get for free thanks to our sponsor for this video, Audible. It really hammers home why you should always get a lawyer if the police call you in for
Always.
questioning. One of the lessons from Professor Duane is that even if you don't confess, police will try to get you on the record with seemingly harmless details so that they can potentially use them against you later. For example, he shares the story of a man who told police that an ex-girlfriend of his lived in a certain neighborhood, and that piece of information, voluntarily shared, got him falsely imprisoned for 20 years for a rape it turned out he did not commit. You Have the Right to Remain Innocent has a number of incredible and shocking stories of people being imprisoned for a variety of small
Insane,
things they
man.
said or did while being interrogated. You can get it for free by going to audible.com/charisma
Check it out,
or
guys.
texting charisma to 500-500.
Do it.
Audible is my favorite audiobook platform
now,
and something
bro.
I personally use all the time. It's a great way to take time that's normally dead time, like doing errands around the house, and transform it into productive time where you're learning and improving yourself. By joining Audible, you get a credit every month to use on any title in their premium selection, regardless of price. You also get access to their Plus catalog with thousands of titles you can listen to for free. Again, if you want to try it out,
Yeah, I don't know if I was too impressed with the guy holding his iPhone upside down with the power cord pointing forward, but hey, yeah, check it out, guys. And What's the Matter You says, I've watched that video, so that's pretty cool. Never Speak to the Police video. And then Rami says, you know, in what world does the Fifth Amendment not exist? And that's what I'm saying, guys. I mean, is our population so stupid that they think it's okay to talk to cops without a lawyer first? I mean, I don't get it. It's just like, really? That's another reason why you should always homeschool your children and form parallel systems. Because if you form a parallel system, like for example, Team MPE, I've got 18,000 people in my unit now that come to me when they need a lawyer. And in that 18,000 people, I know I've got a video guy like Rami. I've got a t-shirt guy that I'm talking to. I'm going to call later tonight to help me with t-shirts. You follow me? Like people that are part of our group that are pros that we like and trust. And so why would you ever want to like talk to the police until you form a parallel system where you're getting educated? So you're learning these things that you need to know. So the next video that we're going to show you is how a cop lied to someone to get a confession. And let's check it out. It's only a minute.
Oh, I need y'all to come get the girls, and I'm being arrested for shoplifting, and I need y'all to come get the girls.
Well, I mean, nothing was the.
Yes, it's a stupid thing.
We're going to put y'all in jail, I promise.
That's right, Rami. Parallel systems, brother. You can't trust anybody unless you like them first.
Okay. So everything's gonna be just.
You have to stay there or
Who that, sir? I want somebody to come my police.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get your ID? You with this female?
Huh?
Are you with this female?
No.
She says she's with you.
She with me? I don't know her.
You don't know her?
Nope.
You don't know she says she with you?
No, I don't. Ask him.
Okay.
No.
She said she was with us. Okay.
No, that's no. Wow.
Lying through his teeth. Is that BZ? Is that BZ?
Tried to bring me in on this amount. I don't even know her.
Oh man, it's just another example of just the utter complete craziness and nonsense. So it doesn't look like we're going to have the biggest audience tonight, but hopefully you guys will stick around, because the 10th Amendment Center is what I'm all about. And so now I'm going to show you a video, which is the reason why I came live tonight. We may not watch it all, but the name of the video is called "Trust No One with Power," and I'm going to drop the link into the chat bar there.
Trust no one with power. The founders warned us over and over and over again that power always expands, no matter who holds it and wields it. You can't trust anyone with power, even if you like the person with the power or you like the things they are doing with it currently, because that same power will eventually be in the hands of someone else, someone who might be hell-bent on destroying your liberty. So on this episode, I've got some powerful and long ignored warnings from the founders, Federalist and anti-Federalist alike, about the dangers of power, precedent, and trust that we can't afford to ignore any longer. But first of all, before getting to that, welcome and thank you for joining me here on the path to liberty. My name is Michael Bolden with the 10th Amendment Center, and this is the show for Wednesday, November 20th, 2024. And I want to kick it off with this great 1772 quote from John.
Hold on a minute. So I got somebody's saying that there's no audio. Just Willie, you got no audio, brother? Give me some 5x5s if you guys can hear this guy's video, because it says that it's playing and it's good to go. So it could be that the Just Willie's just having some comm issues. So 5x5, right on. Okay. You guys, this is a really good video, and I'm going to play it again, like starting from like relatively from the beginning here. What he's saying is prophetic, and it's what most of our founding fathers believed. Trust no one with power, even if they're in an elected position of power, because ultimately that position could be turned over to a scumbag, like Barry Soetoro or Peter Strzok or Lisa Page. So let's watch.
Even if you like the person with the power or you like the things they are doing with it currently, because that same power will eventually be in the hands of someone else, someone who might be hell-bent on destroying your liberty.
Hey,
so in this episode, I've got some powerful and long ignored warnings from the founders, Federalist and anti-Federalist alike, about the dangers of power,
right on, girl,
precedent, and trust that we can't afford to ignore any longer. But first of all, before getting to that, welcome and thank you for joining me here on the path to liberty. My name is Michael Bolden with the 10th Amendment Center, and this is the show for Wednesday, November 20th, 2024. And I want to kick it off with this great 1772 quote from John Adams. He said, "There is danger from all men. The only maxim of a free government ought to be to trust no man living with power to endanger the public liberty."
Amen.
Not just some of them, not most of them. All of them deserve to be distrusted.
That's right.
Now, I think John Adams is maybe the best example of this maxim, maybe in American history. During the American Revolution, he was known as the Atlas of Independence, a fierce defender of the natural rights of the people. But once he got into power as president some years later, things totally flipped. And Mercy Otis Warren, in her great history of the rise, progress, and termination of the American Revolution, described his shift from Atlas of Independence to monarchist. Here's a brief piece. She said, "Endowed with a comprehensive genius, well acquainted with the history of men and nations, and having long appeared to be actuated by the principles of integrity, by a zeal for the rights of men, and an..."
And before we get into it, so when I made my first million, the same thing happened to me. I started getting drunk with power, and I fell away from my principles. And it's just true. You get power and you change. It doesn't matter. You do.
Honest indignation at the ideas of despotism, it was viewed as a kind of political phenomenon, when discovered that Mr. Adams's former opinions were beclouded by a partiality for monarchy. Now, in other words, don't trust anyone with power to endanger the public liberty, including the people who say don't trust anyone with power to endanger the liberty. And here's how John Adams put it and it was originally written in 1763, but I'm not sure if it was ever published at that time, but he had some comments on it later again in his notes in 1807. He said, it's titled An Essay on Man's Lust for Power. He said, this is the great and important and melancholy truth that is conveyed to us by the old maxim that I have chosen for the motto of this paper, that all men would be tyrants if they could. This was certainly part of the message of Cato's letters in the early part of the 18th century from Trenchard and Gordon, and much further back on that as well. The founders and old revolutionaries were not just students of history. They also were students of human nature. They understood how things would play out. Here, for example, John Dickinson in his great Letters from a Farmer in Pennsylvania in 1767, all artful rulers who strive to extend their power beyond its just limits endeavor to give their attempts as much semblance of legality as possible. In other words, if you give them limits on their power, all artful rulers, and that's probably redundant right there, all rulers tend to kind of try to twist things to expand their power over and over time.
Absolutely.
Dickinson continued. He said, those who succeed them may venture to go a little further.
Yep.
For each new encroachment will be strengthened by a former. That which is now supported by examples growing old will become an example itself. That quote was from the great Roman historian Tacitus. So we know that this mentality goes all the way back to that time, if not earlier. Anyways, that which is now supported by examples will become an example itself and thus support fresh usurpations. Samuel Adams, in a letter to James Warren, put it this way: maybe the pun of the century, pun of my lifetime, power, wrote Samuel Adams, is intoxicating. And men legally vested with it too often discover a disposition to make an ill use of it and an unwillingness to part with it. And George Mason in the Philadelphia Convention in 1787, he pointed out the same type of thing. Those who have power in their hands will not give it up while they can retain it. On the contrary, we know they will always, when they can, rather increase it. In other words, power always seeks to expand. And that's exactly how Abigail Adams put it in a letter to John Adams in late 1775. She said, power, whether vested in many or a few, is ever grasping, and like the grave, cries, give. But wait, there's more. She said, the great fish swallow up the small, and he who is most strenuous for the rights of the people when vested with power is as eager after the prerogatives of government. In other words, the people who are best on liberty, soon as they have power, well, things change. And I think this is a great example or a great description of what happened with her husband, John Adams, even if she may not have agreed with that. Now, despite all of these people, and this is just scratching the surface, this is a widely held view. And despite all of this long-held understanding about human nature and the maxims of government power, Mercy Otis Warren also lamented in her great history book, there is a propensity in mankind to enlist themselves under the authority of names and to adopt the opinions of men of celebrity more from the fashion of the times than from the convictions of reason.
Right. And we saw that recently where there was this big push to try to pretend that men can be women and women can be men, right? Because it became popular. And they even started putting tampon machines in the men's restroom. It just shows you how people can be totally brainwashed if popular media and billionaires run all the social media sites and like the Communist News Network, PMS, NBC. By the way, make sure to double tap that screen, because when I'm in vertical, the only way you can give me a like is to double tap the screen. Save these videos for later. We're having a pretty slow night tonight, and I really want you to hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that like and subscribe button. You know, every time I go live after 6, this happens, guys. But this is a really, really important show. Trust no one with power, the forgotten and ignored warnings of the founders. And, you know, it started out with why cops are allowed to lie, but let's watch this and we'll get back into why cops are allowed to lie and can you lie to cops? Let's keep going.
Thus, she writes, with the borrowed language of their chieftain, they oppose upon themselves until they think his opinions are their own.
Loving it.
And are often wrought up to such a fierce spirit of contention that they appear ready to defend them in all the cruel modes of the savage, who is seldom actuated by motives of candor and forgiveness of injuries. And Samuel Adams had a kind of a similar take. In 1748, we don't even think of the American Revolution and generally the principles, the radical change in the viewpoints of the people starting until the 1760s. But Samuel Adams, one of his earliest, if not his first published essay at 26 years old, he warned against this same type of thing. He said, it is a very great mistake to imagine that the object of loyalty is the authority and interest of one individual man, however dignified by the applause or enriched by the success of popular actions. And it was this kind of understanding that likely led Patrick Henry to hammer it home.
One of my heroes.
In the Virginia Ratifying Convention in 1788. He said, guard with jealous attention the public liberty. Suspect everyone who approaches that jewel.
Yes.
And for Samuel Adams, back to his 1748 essay in the Advertiser,
right
for him, true loyalty is actually founded in the love and possession of liberty. The goal should be to attain liberty, not to, well, support an individual. That's what Samuel Adams was pointing out. And that's what Mercy Otis Warren was lamenting that people have done all through history. Anyways, Adams continued. This love of liberty includes in it a thorough knowledge of our Constitution.
Well, unless it's Maximus from the movie Gladiator, then that's okay. I'm going to see Gladiator tomorrow night.
Its conveniences and defects, as well as its real advantages, a becoming jealousy of our immunities, and a steadfast resolution to maintain them. Years later, one of my favorite essays ever written during the Revolution was Samuel Adams writing as Candidus in the publication of the Sons of Liberty, the Boston Gazette. He said, all might be free if they valued freedom and defended it as they ought. And decades earlier had a similar take, which is if you have a true loyalty and a love of liberty, you understand the rules of the Constitution.
Yeah.
Even the unwritten British Constitution.
Yep.
What's good about it and what's bad about it. You have to be just really open about these things, and a jealousy, a kind of a guarded approach of our immunities, of our privileges, of our rights, our liberties, and a resolution to maintain them against, well, all comers. All might be free if they valued freedom and defended it as they ought. John Dickinson and Thomas Jefferson put liberty first again in their Declaration of the Causes and Necessity of Taking Up Arms, which was passed unanimously by the Second Continental Congress less than 3 months after the shot heard around the world at Lexington and Concord. July 6, 1775 was the passage of this declaration. Yep. Our attachment to no nation upon earth should supplant our attachment to liberty. And now, when you think about this, and you think about the fact that liberty has to be the goal, that you can't trust anyone with power because that power is going to expand.
Yeah.
And this is just part of human nature.
Yes.
That's why we also have to think of the fact that when someone we like has power and maybe in the short term does stuff with that power that we're in favor of, we also have to think about the long-term impacts of this. What is someone else going to do with this same power in the future?
Term limit.
Here's the first Chief Justice John Jay reminding us that a power to do good always involves a power to do harm. And the third Chief Justice, Oliver Ellsworth, had a similar take. A power of doing good always implies a power to do evil if the person or party be disposed.
That's right.
Now, Ellsworth and Jay were making the case that because.
And that's why I always tell you guys, don't elect someone unless they're like a Bible beater, someone like who's, like at least you reduce the chances of them being a scumbag. If they're brought up with the conviction that they're in fear of God, that they're in fear of eternal damnation, at least you have a better chance of avoiding problems. But if you just have some scumbag like an Obama, that you're going to end up with what we're ending up with now, with this like critical race theory, this hatred of white people in the public school system. It's just not going to work out. Let's keep going.
Because of this fact, this kind of truth, this maxim of human nature, of power and government all tied together, they were making the case that, well, we can't just give them no power at all because
swagger.
we understand that all power can be abused. The question is, how do you balance it and set things up so it doesn't get abused?
What's the matter, you? Why do you always have to point out the exception to the rule? You make me feel like saying, I have sinned against you. I have sinned against you. I hate
as
you,
often
man.
or as badly, or the people have a way to deal with it. But the essential principle is still there. If we don't think about how someone might use that power in the future, we're making a very, very dangerous mistake. Patrick Henry put it like this again in the Virginia Ratifying Convention. This is June 5th, 1788. All these original source documents that I'm citing here because I'm just scratching the surface.
Hey, at least there's still a few of us alive to know what I was just doing just now. So that kind of makes me happy.
Surface and giving you a highlight reel here. They'll all be linked to in the show notes over at 10thamendmentcenter.com/path-to-liberty. Alan Mosley with 10th Amendment Center, and he's got his own show, It's Too Late, that you should check out. He does a great job organizing the blog posts for every episode, where he has a show link section plus all the various platforms, video and audio platforms, and a bunch of other goodies. I get that published a couple of hours after the live stream is done. Again, awesome. 10thamendmentcenter.com/path-to-liberty. But one of my favorite Patrick Henry quotes, there are many of these. He said, show me that age and country where the rights and liberties of the people were placed on the sole chance of their rulers being good men without a consequent loss of liberty.
Right. And that's why we're a constitutional republic, because our founders were intelligent enough to understand that in a democracy, a corrupt majority, just 1% over 50 could vote to take away all of your rights. And that's what you see happening in the United Kingdom right now. You've got the BBC, it's government funded pretty much, just like NPR here, right? But pretty much controls all the information. The people are such sheeps and lemmings in the United Kingdom that they literally are okay with their government flooding their country with jihadis and displacing the natives and even having their way with their women and children. If you say anything bad about it in the United Kingdom, you go to jail. If you talk about it on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, they'll throw you in jail. If you complain about your government flooding the country with rapists and murderers who mean to do harm to the local natives. That's the problem with the democracy. Let's keep going.
So if they have a bunch of power and they use the power in the right way, that might be good in the short term, but in the long run, it's terrible. He said, I say that the loss of that dearest privilege has ever followed with absolute certainty.
There is life under it, not as bad.
Such mad attempt. Allowing someone to wield all kinds of power, especially power that they're not supposed to be wielding, maybe because the other team did it previously and you're just getting back at them, you're using what they set up, the precedent. This is insanity to someone like Patrick Henry. And I would say Patrick Henry was absolutely right. Now, he reiterated this same point a few days later as well. He said, if you have a good president, senators, and representatives, there is no danger. But can this be expected from human nature? And if you answered no, you definitely passed Patrick Henry's quiz on the Constitution and liberty. And that's why Richard Henry Lee, I think, put it this way. Here he is in a letter to Patrick Henry in May of 1789. This is as the debates over a potential Bill of Rights are getting ready to heat up. He's discussing this with Patrick Henry, discussing what Mr. Madison might be doing in the House of Representatives. Richard Henry Lee, anti-federalist from Virginia, was a senator along with William Grayson. But anyways, he writes to Patrick Henry. He said, it must never be forgotten that the liberties of the people are not so safe under the gracious manner of government as by the limitation of power. Again, the TLDR is very, very clear here that if someone has a bunch of power, even if they do the right thing, your liberty is gone, whether it's today or somewhere down the line. And that's why the only way to ensure that liberty is protected is by, well, limitation of power.
That's right.
And here we are again in the Virginia ratifying convention. Patrick Henry again, without real checks, it will not suffice that some of them are good. A good president or senator or representative will have a natural weakness. Virtue will slumber. The wicked will be continually watching.
That's right.
Consequently, you will be undone. So even if you have some good people in office, if it's a mix, that's going to end up with a destruction of liberty. And again, the more centralized the power is, according to Henry,
worse.
He said consolidation is how he described it, is absolutely going to end in the destruction of our liberties. And ultimately, the people need to demand strict adherence to that limitation of power, as mentioned by Richard Henry Lee. And of course, we're talking about
so these people who want to get rid of the Electoral College, they're an example of useful idiots, right? They don't get it. Like they're thinking, oh, well, if we can just get enough Obamas into power and get everything for free, we're good. But they don't understand that they're the first ones they're going to be sent out for the euthanasia program. They just don't get it, guys. Because the public education system is a brainwashing device.
Under the Constitution of the United States, even if they like the short-term results of going beyond it. Oh, I'll turn a blind eye to this because I like how they're doing that. And ultimately, George Washington called this type of approach a weapon that destroys freedom. Here he is in his farewell address in 1796. He said, if, in the opinion of the people, the distribution or modification of the constitutional powers be in any particular wrong, let it be corrected by an amendment in the way which the Constitution designates. Yeah. If you think they need more power, and I can't imagine, here we are, we live the so-called land of the free. We have the largest government in the history of the planet.
Horrible.
I mean, if you're insane enough to think that they need more power, well, that's what Washington's saying. Go for it. There's a system. It's built into it. Go for it. But he said, let there be no change by usurpation. Usurpation is robbery. It is a theft of power that doesn't belong to government. Stealing power from the...
like flooding the country with illegal aliens and registering them to vote at the DMV so your one political party can take charge like they did in California. That's a prime example of what our founding fathers warned against.
Sovereign people of the several states, because they did not delegate that power. So anytime they go beyond the limits of the Constitution, this is an act of usurpation. He said, let there be no change by usurpation, for though this in one instance may be the instrument of good, it is the customary weapon by which free governments are destroyed. The precedent must always greatly overbalance in permanent evil any partial or transient benefit which the use can at any time yield. Now, ultimately here, what we're talking about is even if you like the short-term results of their usurpation of power, of wielding power in the largest government in history, you got to oppose it because, well, the long-term precedent is really the problem. And certainly we've got that all around us today. And unfortunately for all of us today, there are a lot of people out there who are all for strictly limiting power. There are millions of them, but it happens to be that they're only for that when their other team is in power in Washington, D.C. And we see it flip back and forth and back and forth. And
we see that with Trump. I mean, he governed like a tax and spend liberal. But, he was, somewhat pro Second Amendment with respect to his justices. But because he ran as a Republican, the Democrats hated him. And the Republicans ended up governing like the tax and spend liberals of the 80s. I mean, I didn't see any big difference. It became a sort of a battle of egos and a battle of which political party could wield power. And it's, guys, that's why we need to delete laws instead of electing people who want to pass laws. I submit that we need to put people into power based upon the laws that they'll delete as opposed to passing additional laws. Give me a bunch of ones if you guys agree.
A few years. And then when they get in power, it's all about, Well, building on the previous person's usurpations of power instead of actually restricting it. The result is, again, in this so-called land of the free, we live under the largest government
Rami.
in
I
history.
agree.
And that's why here at the TAC, we work so hard every single day to reach and teach more and more people about these essential principles from the founders and the old revolutionaries.
We're an amazing
And nothing
channel.
helps us get that job done more than the financial faith and support of our members. So I want to take a quick moment. They don't 24/7, 365. Again, our membership programs.
All right. So, that's, you guys already know, I want you to support the 10th Amendment Center, TAC. Please go to his channel. I'm going to drop, I'm going to drop his link. Out of all the channels on YouTube, besides mine to watch, I think this is the one you want to watch. The only reason I like it, that, I want you to watch mine, obviously, is because if I can get enough support from you, I might be in a position where I can do this full time, because this is my passion, teaching people about natural law, where their rights come from, and how to protect and preserve their family and their familial rights. And so this is a big deal to me. The 10th Amendment Center. So now let's get back into a little bit about the law when it comes to, in California, is it a crime to lie to the police? Because we've been talking about just now about, unlimited power and how it corrupts, and what's happened with this huge centralized Leviathan that we have now in this country. And primarily it started, with Jekyll Island and this fiat currency system that we have, where we have billionaires that are calling the shots, even telling us what we can put into our bodies or eat or inject. Think about that. Unbelievable. And people buy into it. They actually believe it. Oh, if you don't take this thing, then you need to be put in jail, right? And it's like, but wait a minute. A bunch of my family members died from the side effects. Oh, no, you're just a racist, bigot, and homophobe. I mean, they're just literally repeating whatever their public school teacher or their commie college professor or Communist News Network or PMSNBC told them. They're not thinking critically. They're just going along with whatever someone told them on the idiot box. And so it's really amazing for me. And I'm grateful that at least there's a few of you people out there who understand why I'm doing this, because it's not obviously to get rich. And so it really makes me proud that I have at least a few people here, and maybe my kids will see that their father was a freedom fighter. But let's get into it really quick. In California, is it a crime to lie to the police? And I did touch on this earlier. I'm licensed to practice law in California and Texas. So I'm going to give you the principles of California, and then I want you to look at the legal principles in your state. So yes, in California, it can be a crime to lie to the police under certain circumstances, but nowhere near as drastic as it is if you lie to the FBI, right? But typically, providing a false identification or information under Vehicle Code Section 31, that would be a misdemeanor, knowingly providing false identifying information. That's why I say just remain silent. Don't tell them anything. Typically, if you have to provide an ID, like you're operating a motor vehicle, you better make sure you provide the right ID. And then now Penal Code Section 148.9, it's illegal to knowingly provide false ID after being legally detained or arrested. So if you're legally detained or arrested, you don't want to give false information about your identification. You simply want to remain silent and abide by the Fifth Amendment. Now, falsely reporting a crime or a misdemeanor, well, that's Penal Code Section 148.5. And so it's a misdemeanor to knowingly make a false report or a crime to a police officer or someone employed to make crime reports like 911 or a prosecutor, because the prosecutor and the police are part of the prosecutorial team. So this could include fabricating a crime story. We did a video the other night about these two dudes in the orange Mercedes SUV, where they were making false 911 reports about sales of illegal substances so they could record it, right? And maybe get some likes or views on YouTube. That would be considered a false reporting of a crime if it's proven to be what they did. And then perjury, if you lie under oath, which, in California, good luck. I mean, everybody lies. I don't even think they prosecute perjury. I think in order to be in politics in California, you're expected to lie. So basically, in order for it to be criminal, there has to be intent and knowledge. You have to know what you're doing is false and deceptive. That's crucial in getting a conviction. The legal consequences can be a conviction. It can result in jail time up to 6 months or more for misdemeanors, 6 months or more for felony, fines of up to $1,000 or both. Perjury being a felony has much more drastic and severe consequences. False reporting costs. In some cases, if you file a false report, you might be held liable for the costs associated with the law enforcement response. So you might be looking at, paying for the fire department, the helicopter, or whatever else they sent to the crime scene, the MRAP, the mortar rounds that come in, depending on what state you're in. Not every lie is a crime, though. It's worth noting that not all lies to the police are automatically criminal. And, lying during a consensual encounter where you're free to leave is probably not a crime, unless it's something, that's criminal. So, be careful. I always say never, ever talk to police, because if you do, all you're doing is setting yourself up to be arrested and to be jailed. So that's pretty much it. This is going to be one of my friends. I'll give you the first 3 letters. ROM told me that maybe my shows are going a little bit too long. So I'm going to close this show out a little bit early tonight. Mr. ROM. I have no idea who that might be, but I'm going to close the show out a little bit early tonight because a wise man seeks counsel, and you never, ever shun the advice of your brothers, because iron sharpens iron. That's what we do as real men. So we want to always never turn away from advice from our brothers and people who care about us. So I'm going to go ahead and, unless you guys have any questions for me, no Grateful Dabs. I'm tired too, brother. So it was good that I'm going to call this one short. And listen, look, normally if I go on at 5, I'll get like 30, 40,000 views. When I'm going on at 6, I'm getting like, let's take a look. I'll tell you guys exactly what's going on. So tonight I picked up about 4,800 views. So you can see there's a significant drop in viewership because I'm losing everybody back east. And most of my viewers are like from back east. I got a lot of Marines at Camp Lejeune back in Virginia, like my homeboys back there who love my channel. And it's too late for them because 6 o'clock, 1,800 in Cali is going to be what, 2,100, something like that in freaking back east. And, they got their old ladies screaming at them. So, but I'll do some shorts for you. I'll make this into shorts so you guys will have some stuff to watch tomorrow during the day. And I'll try to go live earlier. But tomorrow I'm doing an anniversary / birthday ceremony for me and my wife. So we're not gonna go live tomorrow. But look, I really, really appreciate you guys joining my show. And by the way, I have to make a call tonight. I need some suggestions. I'm going to start doing merch, and I'm hoping that my buddy with the words ROM in his name can help me market it, because the dude is like really good at what he does. I want to do merch like Thomas Jefferson shirts with like Team MPE, kind of like Chili's got his pullovers, but I want to do stuff that celebrates our founding fathers, and then put my YouTube channel so people will come and watch that kind of merch. So I'm going to talk about shirts. So, tell me, you guys, like, what do you think I should put as the language on the shirts? What kind of shirts do you think? Should they be long sleeve with names down the side? What founding fathers do you think I should put on my first shirts that I do? That kind of stuff. I mean, anybody who can help me, come up with ideas. I'm totally for it. Should I put AR-15s on them for my support of self-defense rights? So anything, any kind of contributions you guys can give my channel as far as ideas. Obviously, you can support my channel as well by picking up a digital version of my ebook, My Journey to Becoming a Practicing Lawyer with No Law Degree or Undergrad, for $19.99. It's on PayPal. And the way that you can find this book, I'm going to show you right now, is you go to my YouTube channel. I'm going to share it with you in just 1 sickety second. You can go to my YouTube channel and you can go right there where it says Michael E. Line Injury Attorney, click more, and then just scroll down where it says personal blog, law firm contact. Right there, purchase my ebook. There's a PayPal link. You can pick up a copy of my ebook for $19.99. I'm going to try to blow it up a little bit more for y'all so you can all see it. All right. Hopefully can you guys see that? Give me a bunch of ones if you guys can see it. And it's $19.99. It's an ebook. I'm not selling the soft cover version. Okay. It's too much money for me to bring the soft cover, and I don't have any help. I don't have like people like Chili has where they can help me mail stuff. And I would probably have like orders just sitting there for months. So it's an ebook where I can log into PayPal and press send. But the upside is that it's a living ebook. So as I make changes or edits, you'll get them in your version. So for $19.99, you'll get a copy of my digital ebook, My Journey of How I Became a Lawyer with no undergrad or law degree, which is a pretty amazing achievement for someone who was just a jarhead and a sales dude and a construction worker and somebody who spent his time in libraries as a kid with divorced parents and nowhere else to go. So you'll get a chance to learn a little bit more about me and my journey of becoming a lawyer and my passion of the Bill of Rights and natural law, John Locke, and the battle against the great Leviathan and centralized control, and what I'm fighting for every day for you guys. And so you can go and you can also check out my Reddit page. Make sure to like and subscribe to my Reddit. You can join me at X. I do have an Instagram link, but I usually don't go there because that's run by a bunch of Marxist pieces of garbage. But I do have it there. And typically what I do is I just post the images of where they say your article has been found by independent fact checkers to be false. In other words, it disagrees with the Democrat Party, so therefore it's false, because that's all Facebook is basically the propaganda branch of the California Democratic Party. So, but I do have it. So in case you want to have some fun there, look at all of my articles that have been are considered to be false by communist Marxist pieces of garbage. And other than that, you can support my channel by throwing me a super chat or a what do they call that? A buy me a coffee or whatever they call that. But anybody who can support the channel, obviously, I'm very, very grateful for that. And Age Go says my old eyes are trying. I know, brother. Well, let me drop a link. I'll drop a link to you for the PayPal real quick. I'll just drop it in the sidebar here. Let me find it. All right, hold on, guys. Here is the link to my ebook. All right, it's $19.99. I just dropped it in there, and you just click on it. You pick up a copy. I'll shoot it over to you by email, and I'll put you on my email list. Oh, holy crap! Thanks, Grateful Dabs. Grateful Dabs just hooked me up with a super sticker. Hey, look, man, those super stickers and super chats add up. $4.99, $1.99, whatever. I had one show where I got like almost $100 from like $1.99 super stickers and super chats, and my wife was stoked, man. Like that bought me like a night of no nagging, which is pretty rare. So I really appreciate that, guys. That means a lot to me. Oh, no, not X. X is not a bunch of Marxists. Instagram. Instagram, Facebook, those guys are just pieces of garbage. That whole Silicon Valley, these are people who hate us and they hate our way of life. A bunch of hypocrite billionaires. That's the only way I can describe them. And they certainly support the abolition of the Electoral College and direct vote, because they want to be able to take away our freedom to keep and bear arms. And they know that they can use the Communist News Network and PMSNBC and The View to brainwash people into going along with that program and taking away our ability to be able to defend our families under the guise of protecting us, right? But we know, look what happened in Britain. They're flooding their country with jihadis that hate them, and the people have no way to defend themselves. And if they complain about it, the government takes them and locks them up and throws them in jail. So the natives are the enemy of their own government now. So it's another reason why I support legal immigration, right? We don't want people flooding into our country from Roman civil law democracies who are getting free things from our government for the rest of their lives, so long as they vote for a certain political party, because all that's going to do is destroy our Constitution and our way of life. Give me a bunch of ones if you agree with what I just said. Now, And yeah, you're right, F. Billionaires definitely have ruined the world. If I was a billionaire, I would do things a lot differently. That's for sure. And I think that Elon Musk has done a lot of good things. But you always want to distrust the super wealthy. And so that's just something we got to look out for. But with a constitutional republic where the government is bound by the chains of the Constitution, you're in a much better position. Obviously, we need to repeal the 17th Amendment. That's a big one. But we'll get into that on another show. But look, we didn't do too bad tonight. We've had consistent viewership of around 190 to 200 viewers throughout the show. Not bad for coming on after 1800. But again, my buddy Rom says, hey man, going for 2 hours like this, it's too much. So, we'll close it early tonight, Rom. We'll close it early, Romulus. And now tomorrow night, I'm not going live, guys. I plan on taking my wife out to see the new Gladiator movie. I think that the first Gladiator movie is probably one of the best movies ever made. And, I just, man, Maximus that's the guy. That's the guy, man. Commander of the armies of the North. Wow. What a great movie. So, if you guys ever get a chance to see the original Gladiator with Russell Crowe, woo, do it on a big screen with stereo sound. That very beginning where he fights the Germans. What an amazing scene. My gosh, just drop dead. Unbelievable. Just insane. Give me a bunch of ones for Russell Crowe's performance in the original Gladiator movie, if you've seen it before we go. And in F, yeah, I do want to learn more about Dr. Shiva. I know that you've got a problem with Elon, and I get it. But trust me, if the communist Marxists that were in control of Twitter back when Elon took it over, Camel Toe would be the president right now. They had 99.99% control of all the messaging. And when Elon came on, all of a sudden we had the ability to say what we wanted to say. I stopped using Twitter because I knew I was going to be banned as soon as they started forcing us to take the injections and stuff, because I'm so outspoken about speaking out against forced anything, right? So I just stopped using it. And I saw all my friends who are libertarians get their accounts banned. And anybody who talked about the Hunter Biden laptop, even though it was a true story, got banned. So we saw how all of social media and the news lied about the Hunter Biden laptop and did everything they could to get Joe Biden elected, even though basically he's involved in one of the biggest money laundering schemes in the history of this country and should be in prison for treason. We saw what happened, and at least we saw with Twitter and now X, people got to start talking about things. And now you see the restrictions easing at the other social media sites because people like me are going over to X because we can say what we want to say now. But I do want to hear what you have to say, F, about Shiva. And I wouldn't mind having Shiva on my show or going on Shiva's show. Remember, I'm an equal opportunity freedom guy. I don't support any political party. I consider myself to be a libertarian, and I'll take what I can get. Any little bit of freedom I can get, I'm going to take it. So with that being said, guys, make sure to double tap that screen, give me some likes. After the show goes live, please go and make some comments about how you like the show or about what kind of t-shirts you think that I should get for my audience that I could sell and make a little bit of capital on to support the channel. Any ideas that you have like that, or any ideas for merch, to help me push the channel and help it grow so we can get the word of freedom and liberty out to we the people and to the younger generation. So, about homeschooling, classical education. I'm a classical liberal, a Jeffersonian, a Hayek. I'm a true liberal, not these modern Marxists, right? Don't confuse liberalism, classical liberalism, with what we have now, which are who they call liberals, which are basically just Marxists who hate everything about our country. So keep that in mind. If you guys want to support that and you can help me build the channel, that's what I'm looking for. And Warrior is also an awesome movie, by the way, Roger Lane. Gosh, man, you guys, I just keep learning more and more about my channel, and everybody on here just is so much like me. Gosh, I wish there were people less like me sometimes, because I want to get more people that want to learn about freedom and liberty. That's what it's all about for me. So again, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. So when I say save, I mean press that save for later, that little square. Save my videos to your favorites. That's one of the biggest ways, besides financial support, that you can support my channel, because algorithmically it pushes me up higher in the results on YouTube. And remember, Semper Fi, do or die. Love you guys.